5, 4, 3.
And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at the big1050.com. And it is time for the MGoBlog Roundtable. And before we dive in to the array of topics that we are going to get into today, Christmas is around the corner. Seth Fisher, Brian Cook, Craig Ross. I know there's an excellent piece of literature that people, Michigan fans especially, might enjoy, and if they have Michigan fans in their lives and they're looking for, a holiday gift to give Seth, might make for a good gift idea, right?
So my emails have changed. The tenor of my emails have changed from "Where's my book" to "Oh my God, you weren't kidding! You guys went all out on this thing." It's called Victor's. It is 264 pages. It is heavy because we've had the most we could on those pages, like thick paper, right? The cover is just absolutely gorgeous. And I was talking to Sapp yesterday because he called me. He got his copy. And Dr. Sapp was blown away by it because he noticed that the cover has like all these like helmet stickers for every season of Michigan football before this. So you're seeing everything that came before as part of the story. And that's kind of what we did. We wanted to have something that we wanted to have, right? This is the book, this is the thing that I would want to have after a championship game. And the fact that this exists is because we have such incredible readers who supported us on Kickstarter to begin with, and we got this thing out. We got about 9,000, we have 1,000 left. We sold about 9,000 copies out of the 10,000 that I printed. You can get them from MGoBlogStore.com. You can go to MGoBlog.com/Victors. You can also walk into any underground printing store in Ann Arbor, and they'll have them on the shelves. Or it's at what used to be Nicola's, now Schuler's Books at Westgate. Has some copies too, and they keep bugging Brian for more. So better hurry and get yours.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. They keep bugging you for more, man.
It was just some inside baseball. First, they were like, "Can we have 8?" And I'm like, "Just 8, okay." And then like a day later, he's like, "I'm going to need another 20, probably another 40." And then he was like, "I'm going to need 40 more after that." This is our #1 Christmas seller. So Michigan fans, this is the thing. If you have a Michigan fan in your life, this is the thing to get them. This is it's just going to make you happy every time you pass, every time you open it up and you see like, one of those moments, right? It's going to do that.
Hey man, I'm telling you, as I was down this week, and I've been down, Lions had me down. Not the Lions, but just the Lions predicament has me down. And I think it was EA I was talking to about it. And he said, man, it makes you appreciate the Michigan season that much more. The fact that they were able to make it through last year and JJ gets banged up, that he was able to play that Maryland game. And they were like, man, the dude was in tears at halftime of that game, that he actually played in that game. And when you realize how hurt he was in that contest, literally in tears at halftime of that game, it's like, man, you got to be thankful. Got to be thankful that that team went on that championship run, when you realize that's special to be able to make it through that season and not have serious injuries derail it the way the Lions are being derailed right now. So,
well, not to bring everything back to 13-10, but sometimes you have to overcome the excuses.
right. It's true. It's true. So it's a great. You guys did an amazing job. I know I say it. I've said it every single week, but can't say it enough. You guys did an amazing job. Terrific, fellas. You outdid yourself. So if you haven't seen it, you need to pick it up for yourself. If you picked it up for yourself, you need to pick it up for the Michigan fan in your life. It is a great gift idea. So go out, pick it up, and definitely get it for the Christmas holiday. With that, fellas, let's start off on some basketball. We started off with football every single week. I want to make sure we get basketball in this week. Brian Cook, 3 losses on the season, 5 freaking points. 5 freaking points. And last night seemed to be the most infuriating of the 3, at least to me. What say you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't talk that much about college basketball officiating that anymore. But that was, they got hosed. Like, of the 13 free throws that Jeremiah Fears got, he earned probably 4, 5 of them. Like, he should have fouled out early in the second half because apparently you can offensively foul Namari Burnett twice, and the third time they'll actually call it. So very frustrating in a 1-point game where they shoot 48% from 3 and you shoot 14% from 3 to get that call at the end, and then to have a 2-hand shove on Vlad Golden ignored. Just a game where the officiating clearly changed the outcome. The broader point, though, is I think it's obviously frustrating for Michigan that they managed to lose this game, and they've managed to lose a couple more very narrowly. But if you look at what's going on under the hood, it's really encouraging. Michigan shot 72% from 2. 72% from 2, and they rebounded half their misses. They scored 1.23 points per possession while shooting 14% on 28 threes. Like, any game that they're in where there's not a huge gap in 3-point efficiency, they're going to win. That's just the case. And, you saw that against Arkansas where, Michigan can't quite get over the hump against Arkansas because of some other issues. But I think any game where you are able to stay within shouting distance of another team from 3, you're going to win, because this team looks fairly close to unstoppable inside the arc until you get to the Arkansas level, like the Calipari NBA level of we can block your 2-footers. So from a process standpoint, Michigan's getting to the rim. They're getting great shots. They've had some defensive issues the past 2 games, but honestly, I thought they were largely based on shooting and some illegitimate fouls in this game. So, let's just slow our roll. They got a couple games against good mid-major teams that are ranked just outside of the top 100 in Ken Pom, and they need to win those and get to the Big Ten schedule and then do what I think that they're able to do. This is a good basketball team that's going to make the tournament. Now, these losses in the non-conference have kind of stymied their ability to get a pretty good seed, I think, because they don't really have an impressive non-conference win. Although Xavier came pretty close against UConn, which is unfortunate. That would have been big for Michigan by proxy. But this is a good basketball team. It's going to win a large number of Big Ten games. Let's just kind of take it for what it is. They're going to get better faster than other teams because they're, still coming down from being on several different basketball teams last year, and just 10 turnovers last night. We want to talk about how Michigan is improving over the course of this season. And I think now you do have some evidence that, directionally the turnovers are going in the right direction.
Yeah, to me, the turnovers in the crucial moments, though, man.
I mean, every moment's a crucial moment. You get one more bucket in the first half, you win this game. So, I don't necessarily they had 10, right? That's like a beeline level.
You can't wave your point guard off down the stretch and turn the basketball over. That's in crunch time.
I mean, sure. But I'm just I'm looking at the big picture here. I don't necessarily believe that whatever crunch time issues you think this team has are bigger than the fact that they get great shots all the time. All the time. And if they keep those turnovers down, it's going to be real tough for teams to beat them unless they shoot 50% from 3.
And they came back in crunch time. I mean, Michigan did everything that you need to do as a basketball team to win. And Brian covered the officiating, and I'm happy to, because I don't have to go into that. So what I can talk about is Oklahoma is a team that steals the ball. When I was previewing this team, I was like, this is either going to be baked in because Michigan turns it over all the time, or it's going to be a new record for steals because Oklahoma loves to just come up and extra hedge you, and they'll set those screens, those traps, and they were doing it a lot. And the other thing they do is when you got a pass in the air, they'll grab you real quick, and that was, those weren't called either. And there was a moment in this game early on where they have like a couple turnovers in a row, and you're like, oh god, here we go, right? And then they stop. Like the rest of the turnovers were, you're gonna have, everything. You go down the floor, you're gonna have a turnover once in a while, right? That's just gonna happen. But they were not cascading. And what was happening earlier this season is you get one, and then you'd have another one, then you have another one, and you did like 6 possessions in a row with turnovers. And that's where this team really got in trouble. And they have found ways to get the ball to Vlad Golden instead of getting the ball to the other team. They're passing a little higher to him. They're getting more comfortable where he wants the ball. And now, and you see it because they convert those into shots at the rim, where before, like, they would kind of bobble it around, and then all of a sudden he's trying to go up or whatever. There isn't that hesitation anymore. So this is what we've been talking about all season. They're getting better at finding each other, knowing where the guy wants the ball, knowing, like, just the feel, right? It's like playing an instrument. You have to get used to it. And now they're getting used to each other.
Yeah, I think it boils down to, and Craig, I want to get you. I'm thinking of just now, not about the turnovers in the broader sense. I don't mean to minimize what we've seen all season long, the big picture number turnover. They needed to bring that number down. But when I look at the 3 losses, I'm thinking about winning time and being able to close out games and being able to make the key plays in those moments, whether it's turning the basketball over, making free throws, or not fouling or getting the stop. Now, in this particular case, hey, I don't think it was a foul. Some people say, I know Daniel saying it was a foul. I don't think it was a foul, but neither here nor there. They haven't been able to make those key plays down the stretch. And in this particular instance, man, I feel like one of the keys, and he was cooking in this game, Trey Donaldson. As much as they were able to, one of the big stories of the first 39 minutes of this game, Craig, was they were dictating with their size. The big fellas were doing they were doing their thing. But to me, the subplot was Trey Donaldson and his aggression, him being the floor leader. He was doing his thing, and he goes to get the ball. He goes to get the ball, and he gets waved off. Don't wave him off. Don't wave him off. This is what I want to see in this moment, and he got waved off. And I just think this is the moment where this is the role definition that you want to see him, and this is the crucial moment of the game. These are the moments that you're going to want to see, I think, for this team to kind of start separating itself and start winning these games. I think he's going to be one of the big keys for them moving forward.
Well, I have to admit, I'm more with Brian on this. I'm not this crunch time believer sort of guy. I mean, while I'm not saying it's unimportant, I don't think a turnover or mistake in the first minute is any different than a turnover or mistake in the last minute. It's all the same. It's a cumulative game. The points add up, the possessions add up. And so to me, I'm not sure that this makes that much of a difference. What I love, there's one thing Brian's talked about, is how well we're shooting the ball from 2. Yes, we're in fact number 1 in the country right now in shooting the ball from 2. I think it's 62.2%. And a part of that is that Michigan is doing something incredibly unusual. I've never seen it. Maybe someone has seen it. They're playing a 2-man game with just 2 7-footers. I've never seen that. Now maybe somebody suggested to me that Tim Duncan, who I don't really think was 7 foot tall, but whatever, he was close, that Tim Duncan did it one year with David Robinson, but I watched that team that year, and I didn't see it. Not like this. I'm not saying this is the quality of player that Tim Duncan was, one of the great players of all time, but um, but the part of the reason why they're getting these good looks is this very unusual two-man game. Now, on the last possession where Donaldson shot the three, they were trying to run that, trying to run it, and Oklahoma was prepared. And so they're stuck with 3 seconds, 4 seconds left, and Trey took the shot. It was a great shot. He should have taken it. And in fact, we have the rebound, except Paul Sells is standing there watching Vlad get thrown out of bounds when he otherwise would have had the rebound and the putback to win the game. The worst call, of course, was on the other end, where Roddy Gale gets illegally blocked by number 30, who's the king of illegal screens, Goodwin. And so he's stumbling towards Fears. I don't think he ever touches him. If he does, it's a bare touch. But somehow Sells can see that bare touch, if it exists, on that play, but he can't see Golden, who he's standing right next to, or not Golden, getting tossed out of bounds on the last play of the game. Very frustrating because Michigan really did solve their turnover issues. This team is not going to do better than 10 turnovers in a game, in my opinion, given the way they play. And so it was satisfying to see them come out, not turn the ball over, make their free throws. And, okay, you give Oklahoma credit. They shot the ball great from three, and we shot it ridiculously poorly. But in terms of every other way, Michigan won this game. They played good basketball, and in that sense, to me, it's a more frustrating game than Arkansas, where we turned it over, and Arkansas is super athletic, and those guys can get to the basket. And okay, it was still a very close game, but Arkansas had NBA ability in terms of athleticism, at least, and Oklahoma does not. Now Fears is going to be an NBA player, but so in the end, I felt like we got selled in this game, and that's quite maddening to me. It's particularly maddening when we threw a very competent official out of the Big Ten for who knows what reason, and TV Teddy, who is a very good official, and we got this guy Sells, who in my opinion is a bum, and that's how I see it.
Yeah. I don't know, fellas. But we go ahead and man. I agree with you on them getting jobbed at the end. I guess I'm gonna have to disagree with my man Daniel. I know we're gonna go at it on dimes. We're gonna disagree on the whole foul. But I think a turnover late is different than a turnover another time in the game. That bothered me when it happened, and it bothered me more when they lost.
He touched him. It's just you don't call. You never make that call. You if you wanted to go into they would call those all the time.
All right, like you can argue that he needs to give the guy a place to land, and he didn't do that, and that's a foul. But what you can't do is you can't call that foul and not call a two-hand shove on Vlad Golden on the other end.
Yeah,
like you're either like, okay, I'm not going to decide this game by not calling fouls,
Right.
or I'm not going to decide this game by calling foul. And it's completely internally inconsistent. It's ridiculous. And I mean, you got to remember that this is the guy who kicked John Beilein out of a game.
Yeah. Do we want to see my man Dusty? Do we want to see him get a tech?
No.
Do we want to see him?
No,
We saw John Beilein go a little.
It didn't help us with Sells. We're still getting bad calls from him. He's the only guy who ever tossed Beilein from a game, and it's the same old.
And what are you going to do? Is Ward going to go to the Big Ten office and be like, look, because we're going to get this guy again in the Big Ten, right? And now we need to win some major Big Ten games in order to make the playoff, to make the tournament. And what happens? What happens if Ward goes and says, "Listen, this guy has now"? It's not going to do anything. They're not going to listen to him. It's not going to do a dang thing. There's nothing you might as well complain about the injuries on the Lions. There's nothing you can do about it.
Agreed.
I guess I don't know, man. Over the years, I think there's a working the ref. Is there a more effective way to work the ref? I don't know. That's an interesting question for coaches.
Just do what Gene Smith did. Get control of the Big Ten offices. Put your people in there. Pick the refs that you
All
want.
right,
based on what you
stop.
like.
Stop. Stop.
It
That's
sounds
not-
like you guys have had that discussion.
It's not funny. The weird conspiracy theories are not funny. Let's stop.
All right.
Sounds like you guys have had that discussion before. But anyway, we need to get to a break. When we come back on the other side, there are a couple of things going on. You got the portal going on. You got the playoffs coming up. So we will touch on both. We can't get into every single portal question you guys are asking in the chat. I apologize, folks. It's just too many of them. Can't touch them all, but we'll get a couple, and certainly we'll get the fellas' take on the playoff coming up as well. So stay tuned for that here on the MGoBlog Roundtable here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at big1050.com.
Clear on the radio.
You know, Brian came over to watch women's basketball this week, and I'd been to see 3 of their games live, and they were actually watchable. I thought, man, this is a whole new world. It's watchable basketball. And then when the night Brian came over to watch, it was like 47 turnovers between the two teams. It
Was it the Northwestern game or the Oklahoma game?
No. It was Oklahoma. Michigan had 26 turnovers, and Oklahoma had 21. And it was just an ugly, awful, terrible game. Everything about it was dreadful. So,
I watched the Northwestern game because I finally I couldn't do it during football season. It's always during our podcast or whatever, and no one could make a shot. And I was like, this is the team. But I hear you. I haven't gotten to see them really play.
I
well
think
yet
they've got, if they can keep their group of freshmen together, they have 4 at least very good freshmen, and and I've been to 3 of their games live, and I thought, this is kind of fun. And then the game against Oklahoma. Oklahoma had just a brute, big woman in the middle, and her name is Beers.
Did you call her a brute?
She was a brute, and they couldn't handle her. She fouled out the whole Michigan team.
She was big. I thought Grabaskaya.
Grabaskaya got fouled out by Beers is her name. I would change her name to Beer Wagon because she looked. But she was good. I mean, she's a good player, but she's
I thought
incredibly physical. And
I thought they needed to, and this was an interesting thing. I mentioned this to Ira. It was a game where they weren't able to get Sila going. And I just wonder, they're like Michigan in that they have so many different players who can score. And when you have a player who can cook like her, it's almost one of those things where you'll wonder if it's almost a blessing and a curse at a time like that where she had gone so long without really being a focal point, where when you really needed a bucket, it seemed like she was so cold that she couldn't get going. Because they went, it felt like they had gone like 4 minutes, I think, without scoring a bucket. And it just, to see them go through such a drought with a player like her, offensive weapon like her there, and I was like, man, if they could have got her going earlier in the game, you wonder if they ever get a drought like that. So,
yeah, she's not. She's an interesting player. I like her a lot. She has a nice, well-rounded game, but she's not the sort of player who hunts shots. That's just not her game. And her team is going to have to get her shots. And in fact, they have other people who can shoot the ball. Not in that game, but they do have other players who shoot the ball well too. And even though she's not big or strong, or doesn't look strong, she's a phenomenal offensive rebounder, and a lot of the stuff she gets is derivative. So, but I like her, and I like the other. I like the point guard Holloway, and Olivia Olson's a nice player. I mean, they really do have. They have a woman who hasn't played much, Del Fosse, who's a freshman, who I think will be good too. So, I
Back in
mean,
about 15 seconds, guys. Stand by.
it's hopeful because I have seen them play well, but that one against Oklahoma was not pretty. Although they were up, I think 4 points until both centers fouled out.
Back in 5, 4, 3.
And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at the big1050.com. Before we get back to the MGoBlog Roundtable with the fellas, want to let you know there's never been a better time to get on board with Brighton Ford than now. Get into the holiday ready sales event. They can't wait to find you the best Ford for you. Through December 31st, qualified lessees can lease a 2024 Ford Bronco Sport for as low as $232 a month, or lease a 2024 Ford Escape for as low as $153 a month. Both only $3,500 down, plus first payment, taxes, doc fee, title, license, and state fees due at signing. And security deposit waived, 7,500 miles per year, 24-month lease. Call 1-800-NEW-FORD to see dealer for full details. Visit BrightonFord.com today. Apply for financing, secure pricing, and schedule delivery. That's at Brighton Ford. Be sure to get on board. Now, fellas, the transfer portal is an absolute frenzy. The Wolverines have picked up a few commitments thus far. I'll start with you, Brian Cook. Your thoughts on who they've landed thus far, and as far as the portal activity that you've seen, is anything that jumps out to you at this point?
Well, assuming that Damon Payne is going to stay in the class.
He
We're right on that. Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Like, he's a guy who, he's not going to be a superstar. I think you can see he was pretty average in about 300 snaps at Alabama a year ago, but he is a guy who's going to be an innings eater. And I think that's important for any defensive line to have, if they're not going to have superstars, is that they have a guy who can just go out there and not get moved. And I think that he's going to be that guy. You surround him with guys who can get to the passer, and I think that'll be a good setup for Michigan. So I think that's an important pickup, and honestly, they need a corner or two, and then I think they can be done on defense. There's not really a whole lot of holes that I think need filling. I mean, if a superstar like Josiah Stewart comes along, sure, you'll take him, but they seem pretty well set. But on offense, it's questionable. I mean, we saw the Billy Edwards moment come and go because Luke Fickell promised him that he could also get injured at Wisconsin. And he's like, "Oh, I love being injured. That's why I played at Maryland."
It was interesting. The energy that those guys, and didn't mention Billy Edwards' name. And when you mentioned him last week, I obviously had heard Billy's clearly. Had heard Billy Edwards' name and had been hearing Billy Edwards' name for weeks. Same thing with Miller Moss. I heard Miller Moss's name. I heard Miller Moss's name for the first time the week after Michigan played him from some folks out there. It's like, hey, Miller's going to be jumping in the portal probably, and he's interested in Michigan. So it was like, I've been hearing it that long. That was before he had gotten benched, right? And then I had even checked back in. It's like, hey, Michigan's probably going to be getting Bryce. So what about that? It's like, oh, he'll come in with Bryce. Same thing with Billy. He'll come in with Bryce. And so, once Miller got into the portal, the energy was a whole lot different. Brian, Seth, Craig, and it wasn't the same kind of rhythm. Now, Billy was, and even up until he was on the visit to Wisconsin, he actually texted me and said, hey, I'll be at Michigan on Monday. And he gets into the visit on Wisconsin at Wisconsin, and then once he gets through the visit, he's like, I can't do it. So this Bryce thing is like it's a factor for these dudes. Not to say that money isn't, but Michigan was putting up serious, or the collective was putting up serious coin. More coin than I think people would expect for Billy Edwards. And it's like, hey, the Bryce thing is turning out to be a real factor for these quarterbacks, fellas.
Well, it's I mean, hey man, if you're going to go to the NFL, you're going to stay in front of Bryce Edwards in year 1, right? Like, to me, that's, I don't know. You're not really betting on yourself there, because you can go to Wisconsin and it's like, okay, you're going to be in a nationally televised game the last week of the season, or are you going to be playing Iowa on, True TV? So, I mean, to me, like, all right, you're going to do what you're going to do. But for Michigan, it's moving on to the next set of guys to see who you can get in. It looks like, you have Daquan Finn. You have that kid out of Nevada that you guys like.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that they need a veteran guy to kind of,
Yeah, you do.
ease the transition. And Brendan Lewis is the kid out of Nevada. Like, that's an appealing person, because if we are going to go to a system that utilizes what Underwood brings as a runner, which I think you need to do, because this is a different level from JJ McCarthy, then I think a guy who ran for 800 yards this year is a pretty attractive prospect. And passing numbers shot up a ton last year for Lewis, a guy who seems to have figured it out late in his career, and seems like he has the athleticism to succeed in a high major conference, clearly. And just a functional guy who's had 1,000 snaps and is going to be very important for Michigan. And I think that it's important for them to get one of those two guys.
Yeah. So you guys, clearly, it sounds like you like that. You like you like DQ, and you like Brendan Lewis more than you like Mikey Keene.
I don't like Mikey Keene at all. I saw Mikey Keene play, and I was like, what is, like, there's like, he can't throw off platform, he can't move out of the pocket, he's 5'10" or something. Like, I don't know what he's listed at, but he's not big, and he just doesn't have the arm strength. And it's like, okay, how does this relate to Bryce Underwood? Like, I'm sure he can be an adequate pop gun quarterback, but who he reminds me of is Minnesota's Max Brosmer. And, like, do I want Max Brosmer leading into Underwood? No, I don't. That's a different kind of quarterback entirely. You need to change your offense significantly when you're switching out quarterbacks.
I have a question for you guys. I mean, how would you compare the kid from Bama, Payne, to Cam Good?
Well, they're both similar in that they're one-dimensional defensive tackles, but
Okay.
Cam Good was one-dimensional as a pass rusher, and Payne is one-dimensional as a run stopper.
Run stopper, okay.
Or at least a run occupier. He doesn't really stop the runs. The runs kind of go around him, but you can't just blow him off the ball.
Yeah, Cam Good was a squatty sort of leverage
bowling
guy.
ball dude. Yeah.
And you're talking about 6'4" and some change, 6'4" and some change, 6'4" and 3/8,
okay,
and 315 pounds for Damon Payne.
And what about the safety from Arkansas? Was that
TJ Metcalf? Yeah, I think that's a really key pickup. I think he gives them. What did you guys think of TJ?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's a recruitment I think they got into because they got Lindsey, because they're from Pinson, right, which is where he was the high school coach. So it tells you, first of all, that we might have some recruiting chops at the offensive coordinator position that go well beyond his own sphere, which I thought was very interesting. Looks to me like an athlete. It's kind of hard to tell what anyone's going to look like in Michigan's defensive system, because it takes a while. But I think that the floor there is a walker, and then you can probably get him up to being a pretty functional third or even second safety by the midseason. What I really like about it is that if they get Rod Moore back, they can move Rod Moore to nickel, and they are fine at safety. I think between him and Mangum and the freshman they had, and Hillman's coming along, they're going to be fine at safety next year. Whereas it was going to get a little weak if they moved more out of there.
I read somewhere that they are the grandchildren of Ronnie Lott. That they're could that be right? it was posted that, I mean, we knew that they're related to DK Metcalf somehow.
I guess I didn't see that part. I know the DK Metcalf piece, but I didn't see that part. What I like is it gives them some it gives them a buffer with Rod, assuming Rod returns, and things have been trending that way. I don't want to get ahead of it. Let's just say things have been trending that way for some time with Rod. You know, as he goes with his rehab, it gives them a buffer to allow for his rehab to play out. So depending on how things go, if he's ready in the spring, however long that rehab takes, you know, it's, you know, you got a guy who allows you to have veteran playmaking, leadership. He gives you a guy who can come downhill and hit. He has some man cover skills. He has range. He gives you that veteran playmaking presence that you lack if Rod isn't ready to go, say in the spring. You know, maybe Rod isn't ready to go until the fall if he comes back, right? Well, you got a player in TJ Metcalf who's played a lot of football, played at a high level, who can give you some of that right now.
How quickly can you learn the defense? Because I've been charting Mikey Samer still, and then I charted Rod Moore, and then I saw when they moved Makari Page to nickel, and he was right in the middle of everything. They just got more organized on defense. And I want that position from now on to go to a guy who's been in our program for 5 years.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that would be the ideal scenario, is Rod Moore at nickel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any question. You know, it's just a matter of availability.
In terms of the portal, what's bothering me, I mean, I think at quarterback, DeQuan Finn could be fine. I saw him play at Toledo a couple times live. I saw him play at King once back in high school. I think he's probably, you know, a fit with Underwood. But I'm not sure about Mikey Dean, who doesn't really have much of an arm. But and I haven't watched the other guy. But in the end, I think they'll be okay there. I'm still most bothered by offensive line. I don't know what the story is with the guy from Northwestern. What's his name? Josh Johnson. Could that be right? Thompson, right?
Yeah,
And
I think he's going to visit the SEC first.
Yeah, Michigan. He is a major priority.
Yeah,
major priority. They have made it clear. You know, there are players and positions where it's like, okay, we are going to battle for this guy. And Josh Thompson, they made it clear they're going to battle for him. So it's Michigan, Tennessee, Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are the major ones. I don't see, you know, I know Ohio State and Michigan State were pushing hard for him, but I think I think Tennessee and Auburn are the primary combatants there.
Who wouldn't want to be an offensive lineman at Ohio State?
Yeah. Right. But I mean, the guy from Cal Poly, who he
looks like development to me.
That's what he looks like.
Yeah, I think they took him because they're like, wow, we can turn this guy into a tackle in a year or two. Kind of reminds me of Ladarius Henderson, long arms, good feet, but you're going to have to develop him.
Okay. Ohio State apparently did come in last second and offer him too, but you know, it just seemed the change from Cal Poly to the Big Ten is probably a pretty big jump to make in 1 year. But
so Sam, I want to ask about Tyler Morris. Like, nobody's heard from him at all since he entered the portal. He announced he's entering the portal 2 weeks ago. Hasn't set a visit. Hasn't made any kind of motion towards actually like leaving Michigan. Is it possible that they could get him back?
Yeah. So it was. So when he entered, I think the thought was, man, I don't think he had much faith in the offense as it was. I don't think he had much faith in the offense as it was the current brain trust. But that was before Sharon fired Kirk Campbell. And so now you got a new offensive coordinator but he's already in the portal and kind of testing the waters. I think the door is open for a return. Like you said, I haven't heard of any real movement. So given that Michigan, I'll be talking about some receivers that they are kicking the tires with. I know there's a lot of questions about Zechariah Branch, for instance, who there's a lot of excitement, and rightfully so, because he is electric. And there's talk about him setting the bar for receivers in the NIL space. There's talk of him being the $4 million man as a receiver. They're even talking to Lincoln Riley about, hey, what do you think about losing all these guys? And he said, we got a certain amount that we're going to spend NIL wise. And I think he was talking about Branch. Is Michigan in the mix with other schools? Yeah. As when that was mentioned, there hadn't been a conversation yet with Michigan. So there was only that he has Michigan on the list of schools that he's interested in, which is great. There are other, I think that's a tire that's going to be kicked, but there are other receivers that I think that they are farther down the aisle with that I'll be talking about. But I do think that the door is open for Tyler to come back. And one of the issues has been, man, it's like we've been talking about, some of the guys have been like, oh, first of all, from a quarterback perspective, man, who's going to be throwing me the rock? I mean, I think they've been intrigued by number 19. So you kind of gotten over that hurdle a little bit. But then once you get over that hurdle, some of the best guys have been guys that are a little farther down the aisle as far as eligibility is concerned. One of those guys was Dane Key, who just committed to Georgia. That would have been one. That would have been one, which is tough. But like I said, there's a guy that I know they made contact with. I can't really get into it yet because I got to confirm that they actually had conversations, which I got some texts going right now. So before I want to confirm it before I mention his name, and then I'll get into it later. But I think there are some things going at the receiver position that I think are promising. So we'll see. I think Chip getting an OC that's actually going to emphasize perimeter diversity, I think is going to help. So
yeah, and the questions are going to be who's my quarterback, who's my OC. We got the OC in, and that was important to get him in. It does, Chip. He's coached a lot of the quarterbacks that are around college because he's been, he went somewhere 2 years and went somewhere else and whatnot. And Mikey Keene, it sucks that he's the one who's in the portal that he actually coached him at UCF. And Mikey Keene is perfectly not the fit because it's a decent floor for what you need, but I don't know. I agree with Brian. He's just not the guy you want before Underwood. That's the guy that you could get, I think, because you have that connection.
Yeah, they had the tight end from Purdue in Max Clare.
Mm-hmm.
He's the I think we 24/7 have him as the number one tight end in the portal. He was visiting Louisville after Michigan. He had Texas and Texas A&M in there as well, I believe. But the thing is, he's going to Louisville, and Brom was the one who actually recruited him to Purdue. So you got the tight end sort of production and lineage. Against all those schools, you feel good if you're Michigan putting your tight end resume up. But you got proximity, you got familiarity. You got to feel like Louisville has a pretty good flag to plant, so to speak, in that mix. So, we'll see how that one goes. Claire plays his deal really close to the vest, so it's kind of hard to hear where things are going with him. He's a kid out of Cincinnati, but we'll see where things are. He had a good visit by all accounts, though, earlier this week. We'll see where things are with him too.
He's more of a receiving tight end, correct? Or he's not like a Barner type.
He can block. I mean,
He
I've
can
seen
block,
him. Yeah,
okay.
he's got a kind of blocky build, but he
Mhm.
definitely a receiving target as well. I'd say he's a mix. I really do want someone who can block. I know we got Max Bredesen, but like I saw what AJ Barner can give you, and I want to have that every year.
Yeah. Yep. So, the receiver piece will be the last one. And then it's going to be a big weekend on the running back side of things because I don't know, man. I really feel like Justice Haynes, that Michigan is as enticing options go. Michigan has to look really good to him. This is a clear opportunity for playing time at a spot where they're gonna really emphasize running the football. A running back coach who you have a pre-existing relationship. Like he's gonna be here the entire weekend. Like Michigan is a serious player for Justice Haynes, and a guy who has played some serious football down there at Alabama. That's a big one for Michigan this weekend.
Is he playing against us in the bowl game?
No, he's in the portal.
He's in the portal. Well, you could be in the portal and still play, can't you? I mean, what is the
technically? I suppose
you could, but
what happens if you're in the portal and you get injured in a bowl game while you're looking for an NIL deal? It's just not going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm the reason I'm not jumping all over that one is because I scouted Marshall, and I think he's going to be the real deal, and I think he's probably going to jump ahead of Ben Hall, who I also love. So I think that you've got a pretty good 1-2 punch already, and you had the third guy with it, and it's like, okay, that'll be nice, but I'm not really worried about running back right now.
Well, they have Kaapana too, who at least his film from high school, who I liked.
Did you see him like the one time they played him though? He's like he's a jitterbug. He's tiny. He's not going to be an every down back. Yeah. I mean, he could be a Vincent Smith type. You could see that in his game a little bit, but it's I'm looking at Marshall and saying that guy's the next real deal that we got.
Hey, we only got a couple of minutes, so playoff picks, guys. Do Penn State, Ohio State, do they go down? What do you guys think?
I mean, no.
Tennessee's got some tackles, so
yeah. I mean, I just kind of think that the shoe against this defense, the Ohio State defense, is going to be too much for a true freshman quarterback. Like I think he'll make some mistakes, and Ohio State will throw the ball. Like no.
Like Tim Banks is called up the Michigan guys, right? You know that. He's called up Jay and got the book.
I'm sure that they have, but I'm sure the Ohio State guys have now self-scouted, and they're going to be like, so should we run the ball 80% of the time on standard downs?
Are you sure? You sure they learned their lesson, Brian?
Yeah, because remember after Stroud didn't run the ball at all, the year that both Michigan and Ohio State were in the playoff, he ran it for like 50, 60 yards against Georgia, and that was almost the difference. So they will fight the last war, and they will throw the ball all over the yard. And I don't think we were going to see a run between the tackles until the third quarter. Okay. And that's probably going to be enough for them. Okay. But if they're down 10 points in the second half, I will be listening to that stadium.
It would be poetic justice if old James Franklin goes down in the first round too, though. I'll be love to see it. Would love to see it. Fellas, hey, you have a great, great holiday. You are the absolute best. Again, great year. Appreciate you guys and everything that you do and everything that you are on this show, and just for being great friends too. So appreciate you.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you.
To the rest of you, we got to get out of here. So we'll see you tomorrow here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTK.